United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we'll move on to the approval of the agenda. Any changes, comments, questions? Yep. Entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll move to approve the agenda.
I'll second that.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Carries. And delegations, Mr. Peterson.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Skipper. So, as you know, because of the last meeting, I read a fancy proclamation from the governor. This is School Board Appreciation Month. In front of you, you have some certificates that were sent by WASDA, an appreciation for your service. More importantly, you also have some handwritten thank yous from various classes at the elementary school. Then over on the wall, on the right-hand side, that is from the leadership class, student leadership class of Pevy Middle School. And then even though the elementary kids did some writing of their names and such, they also did some painting of their hands and put up a poster for you all from our elementary. So I know that having been to a few board meetings, obviously here over the years, but in other districts, the things that you see in front of you and that are up on the wall, these are real things. These are things to be proud to take to your fridge and put up there next to your own kids' report cards if you still have kids in schools. But we also have two representatives from our high school ASB who are coming here in person. So I would appreciate it very much if you can go down there you go. Just introduce yourself so the board knows who you are, and feel free to.
Hi, I'm Reese Bourne. My partner is not here at the moment, so apologize for that. We did make a poster.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we wanted to thank you for all that you do for our school and our community, and we wanted to show you appreciation. Or we wanted to show you our appreciation with gifts from the leadership class, but the
they're
gifts
late.
are here. I'm assuming they're coming soon.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much.
much.
Reese, you can put that over on the table and we'll get it up right in the middle of those
Yep,
two.
right between.
Perfect spot for it.
It's not, I'm not just blowing smoke when I say that our kids and our teaching staff, they have a lot of fun with this stuff and they get to explain what the school board does and the important part that you all play in the business of the district. And not a lot of people, and certainly kids growing up, I never knew what was going on other than my dad used to go to this meeting every once in a while. So thank you for everything that you do and in your service. It certainly is a position that isn't always the most fun, but the work you do matters to the community. So thank you.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, appreciate that. All right, moving on to the consent agenda. Any comments or questions?
I did have, and I probably, maybe should know the answer, but why are there two payroll lines?
One's ACH and one is warrants.
Gotcha, okay.
Thank you.
Entertain motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second it.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Public comments? Before I read the rules, I'll see if we actually have any. No? Any electronic? Okay, all right, moving right along. Unfinished business, policy 2415, elective credit for paid work experience.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Skipper. I should have noted at the beginning of the meeting also, Mr. Rob is absent tonight, even though his name is on the agenda. And that was due to the rescheduling of the basketball game for tonight. Originally it was scheduled for 7:30. He was gonna be able to make it, no problem. They moved it to 6:30 to get people home, so that's why, but the discussion can happen.
I
no
can
problem.
confirm he's there. I stopped by. and-
There you go.
I was there too.
So the unfinished business is, with policy 2415 is simple, and thank you to Mona for catching this. This has been on my list after we met on and talked to Rick on Friday. We had our second reading of policy 2415, elective credit for paid work experience. However, we did not approve it. So this is simply asking for a vote to approve policy 2415 as it was written in the first two readings.
Any other comments or questions, or we need to backtrack on the agenda?
Tell you what, why don't you finish?
Finish this item?
Let's finish this item and then we'll put a pause.
All right. Yeah, any comments or questions on policy 2415?
I will move to approve policy 2415, elective credit for paid work experience.
I will second that.
Good. All in favor?
Aye.
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 And that carries. All right, to the gift presentation.
Yep, back to delegate, rewind to delegations for a quick moment.
Thank you much.
Sorry for being late.
No worries.
problem.
I'm sure it was the roads, right?
Just
You're
saying.
just being careful.
Driving very cautiously.
Nice
Oh, those
coaster
are-
set.
Ooh, those are awesome.
Awesome.
Oh, they're all different.
Yeah.
Cool. I like them.
Very cool. Thank you all.
These are awesome. Thank
Thank
you
you.
guys.
And,
I use one right now.
Roads, so.
oh, excellent. Yeah, we'll take it to the driveway. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And of course, because we just adopted policy 2415, this is one of the things in work experience, maybe some kids will do, that we could give them work credit for.
Nice. Those are cool.
All right, moving on to policy 3424, opioid related overdose reversal, second reading.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Skipper. Again, I don't have any changes. I did have some conversations though, again, with our ESD and our school nurses. So we're just in the process of doing our trainings for some staff members and finding, did have some disagreement and some mixed messages, quite frankly, about where we were supposed to put the Narcan. And my understanding, that's since been clarified a little bit, was it was supposed to go in with the AEDs. But we also have to make sure that the AEDs are located in a place where there is pretty much adult supervision or cameras or anything like that in case they get messed with. So I think we've got that taken care of, but we'll be all ready to have this back at our February 11th meeting and put a ball on it.
What's the timing on the training?
The nurse wants to get it done as soon as possible. The nurse wanted it done before this meeting. I think she's just having some trouble getting an appropriate time, and of course, with all the cancellations, sending kids home, sending staff home as soon as we could after the bell rang. I think that played a part in it. So I'm hopeful by the next meeting on the 11th, by the time that we finalize this policy, that we'll have staff trained, and ideally on the 12th, then go forward and get the Narcan out of my office and into where it needs to be.
Good. Okay, moving on, Director District 1 update.
I wish I had a better update, but we've not had at this point any applicants or requests for information about our open director seat. So therefore, we are going ahead and we will extend the timeline for approval. We actually have our meeting, I believe it's on March 10th or 11th. We have a meeting. So that's gonna kind of be our final one that we oversee solely on our own. The law stipulates that we have to go 90 days and appoint someone within that 90 days. And if that doesn't happen, then we need, and when I say we, I need to request assistance from the ESD. Quite frankly, in my conversations with the superintendent of the ESD, they will do some advertising and things like that, but he does not anticipate having any, well, he quite frankly anticipates having less luck than we do because we know our folks, we know our boundaries much better than they do. But they'll do some social media, some newspaper ads and things like that. And then if nothing happens, we simply move forward with 4 until something happens. I was speaking over the weekend with the superintendent in Prescott. They've been working with 4 board members for 2.5 years. And if we think we have it bad, I'll pass this along just because I thought it was hilarious. There's only 17 residents in the district where Prescott has had no one volunteer. So it's a pretty limited group. So anyway, we're lucky in that sense that we have a few more. So we'll keep trying though.
What was the date that you're extending the timeline to date or?
So we're going to do, again, assuming that we had applicants, we would be looking at the Wednesday before our first March meeting. So that way we could do interviews the Friday before and do an appointment then on that following Monday.
All right. Any other questions on that? Down to new business policy 6115 fund balance.
So this has been a discussion that we have very loosely talked about for a while. In fact, some of our previous board members going back a while had from time to time brought this up. And so I asked Drew to prepare some documents around if we were to propose a change, because this is not anything formal at this point, it's simply discussion. If we were interested in increasing our minimum fund balance that board has in policy. So when you look at policy 6115, right now, we have a minimum of the overall budget within the 3 to 5% of the general fund budget. So we've got kind of an area, however, that we're really concerned about that 4% being the very bottom. And I think we could do a little cleanup in the language, but in the documents that Drew provided, he gave you some historical numbers of what our reserve has been in the past, going all the way back to 2018 and 19, when we had in 1819 and 1920 over an 8% ending fund balance reserve. Dropped down for 2021, but 21, 22, 22, 23, both over 6%. So Drew's recommendation is that we have that number at 5% being that kind of the bottom number we want. He's recommending that we change that to 6%. I then think the real question would be, according to what the policy states, whether you want to have a range of 4 to 6%, or quite frankly, whether we just make it a flat 6% and say that any dip below that requires board notice and the intervention, and then some work on Drew and my part to make sure that we have a plan to get it back above.
What's the recommendation from, is it WASDA that has a recommendation?
The recommendation is pretty consistent across the state is 5%. However, what we're finding is that with the increase in personnel costs and inflation and everything else, 5% simply isn't enough to fund the district. Were we to get cut off of state dollars, that we would fund for a month, and that is all. There, quite frankly, there was a time when a 5% fund balance on most districts would probably fund 2 to 3 months. That's simply no longer the case. In my conversations with other superintendents, they really try and focus on 8% as a good working number for districts. And I think it's obviously achievable because we had that my first 2 years here. So I think it's something we can get to, but I think that bottom number does need to come up to a 6%. So with Drew not being here, if you have any questions or clarifications, especially in the documents that he sent, and I thought it was very good because really what he was trying to show you is, you know, these are our real budgetary numbers for the past 5 years. What would these different percentages look like? And it, of course, as you know, as we increase our budget, which is bound to happen virtually yearly, our percentage of reserve needs to go up appropriately. But I think, like we said, it needs to go above 5%.
Okay.
So that can go, we can move that forward. Assuming there are no other questions or anything, it might be a good idea. We can bring some options, actually some written options to change the language in this. And we do not need to do multiple readings. We can simply adopt and change the policy and go from there.
Mary? Sounds good to me.
Seems attainable.
I think it is. I think it's not hard, but I do like Drew's idea of let's work our way up to it and make sure that we have the systems in place that we don't see like we saw last year when there was just a massive impact and we had to cut back on so many things quickly to keep us there.
Yep. Okay. Next item, Director District Electoral Change.
So as the board is aware, Josh replied to an email or sent me an email, and this kind of goes back to our earlier discussion of the director for District 1, an update of, you know, we don't have a current Director 1. So what would be the timelines and everything? Would we change? What would be the considerations that we have to do to change to go to a 3 electoral district? Meaning we would lower from 5 to 3 the numbers of elected officials by district, and then go to 2 at large.
Right.
So I had a conversation with Amanda Hatfield at the Benton County Auditor's Office, who's in charge of elections. She was going to make sure and get us all the most recent guidance around that. I also talked to Paul Clay, who was our district's attorney. He had gone through a similar process with another district a few years ago. He's going to find that information. The best I could get was it could be anywhere from up to 18 months to 24 months. So a year and a half to 2 years to get everything done. One of the things Amanda and I talked about was, you know, we just completed with the new census, we updated all the GIS mapping and everything like that. And so we would have to shift that again. So because this was the first time she'd been involved with that mapping process, she wanted to make sure she had her information correct. So we're going to give her and Mr. Clay some time. I'm hoping by the next meeting, but by the second meeting in February, we should have a better idea of exactly what it's going to take. And then have some discussion. We are going to get a survey question out on our website, and it's going to be one question, and simply ask our community, would you recommend to the board that we explore our options around moving to a 3 district 3 director district and 2 at-large positions school board. So that'll be up, and then we can look at some early results here at our next meeting in February. Then see where we want to go from there. It may be a non-starter with the community. It may be something that's overwhelmingly yes, but either way, I think it's a good idea to go out and try and get some information from the people.
Now, didn't you say once that Finley went this direction?
Finley went this direction. I've said that during a
Only
few
one
different
month,
meetings
yes.
because they went through and it took them 2 years.
Right.
And when they finally went from a 5 director to a 4, they found someone who would have been in the district that they just eliminated and couldn't get someone to run in one of the new ones. So they still had 4. They couldn't fill one of the newly created districts. So changing the districts, I think, is a good thing to look at. It does not guarantee us that we'll all of a sudden get a 5th person, depending on how people feel at the time.
Well, thank you for looking into that.
Absolutely.
I think it makes sense to consider.
Mhm.
Surprising it takes that long, but I guess it shouldn't be.
Yeah, and as soon as I get some written items from Paul Clay, I will just forward those to you, but via email, because I'm assuming he's not gonna wait for the next board meeting, so I'll get those out.
All right, board comments? Superintendent's report?
Yeah, just briefly, a couple of items to bring the board up to speed on. As we've talked about in previous meetings, Covey High School went forward and appealed to the WIAA for us to drop down a classification, go from single A down to 2B. Long story short, they denied our request. They simply said we were too big, too far above the 2B level. I think we were fortunate because we didn't find that there was a problem in the reporting of our students of poverty. And so now that is a part of something that David and I are going to have to work on along with Amelia in IT to figure out, okay, was it a reporting on our end into Power School? Was it a reporting issue from Power School into the state system Cedars? Was it a problem from WIAA pulling out the right information from OSPI? Where exactly did the error occur? But the bottom line is, even had we had the correct number, according to WIAA, we still would have been 40 kids higher than that limit. And it was going to be a no-go at that point. So we did not follow through with a final appeal, which would have meant me and either Clay or Dirk going to Renton. Once we saw the numbers, it was very clear it was a done deal for now. So again, though, WIA does, depending on if we have a significant enrollment shift in the first 2 years of that 4-year cycle, we can put forth another appeal and say that there were unforeseen circumstances that caused either our enrollment to spike or caused it to decline significantly and move forward.
I wondered, because I saw those on my WIA Facebook, and I was like, oh, wonder where we are now, and oh, no, we didn't move.
Yeah, we did not move.
And those classifications, from what I was looking, they take the enrollment just from 9th through 11th grade,
Correct.
which just from my knowledge of having my son in school, every year that he went up, he's a 9th grader, they added a new teacher because they didn't have enough teachers for the kids. So I wonder if that's the spike too that puts it, because I thought we were going to go down too.
Yep. Yeah, I was surprised when I saw that they had us with 338 students, which is pretty close. But just in our 4 years, we'd gone from 289 up to 338. So the size of the classes were making a big difference. What we were believing was that our poverty rate was such, though, that it would qualify us then, much like schools such as Toppenish or Wapto or Waloop that are significantly bigger than us. But because of their poverty rate, they're able to go from 2A down to 1A. We were kind of believing that we would be in the same boat going from 1A down to 2B. But even had we maxed out our poverty at the same levels as those schools, we wouldn't have hit it. So it's okay. We're gonna play where we're at. But however, I know that Dirk is going to then take some issues to our league and just say, we want to make sure, because again, regardless of numbers and where we fall out, there are a few schools, there are 3 of them right now, that we are playing that have at least double and almost triple in one case, the size of school that we do. So there is still some disadvantages there. But it'll be okay. Dirk was very concerned, but I think he had the weekend to let it sink in, and I think we'll be okay. So with that, we are hoping, knock on wood, that we only have one makeup day, but we won't go forward with our calendar approval for changes by the board until we're fairly confident that we're out of the snow and ice season. And then just a heads up to everybody, I'll be at the legislative conference in Olympia Sunday and Monday. Head over there Sunday morning and go to a bunch of meetings and then meet with legislators on Monday and be back. So there are a significant number of bills even for a short session. I've testified in favor of one that has the potential to impact a grant that goes to the ESD for our attendance work and our attendance specialists. You've seen Emily and Mallory is her supervisor who have been here to talk. The work they're doing is outstanding. And we were pressing for the legislature to continue to fund that position beyond the ESSER funding that of course runs out this year. So, but as I get more and more policies of interest, I'll make sure I've started forwarding you the TWIO that this week in Olympia, that Dan Steele does an amazing job of putting all the things together that are important. So that's, if you can't do anything else but read his, and quite frankly, even if you don't have time to read his 11 or 12 pages, there's a 2-minute, 3-minute podcast that he does that's on the WASA website. I listen to it on the way to work. So it's a good deal.
Yeah, I listen to that podcast at like 1.5 speed, so I get through it pretty quick.
Yep.
What's this podcast?
I'll show you after Washington or WASA legislative update, I think it's called.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah, and it's basically, he takes a breakdown of what he puts in those multi-page, long, 10, 11, 12 page documents that he sends to everything, and he breaks it down to 2 or 3 minutes on a podcast, just because he knows that people are busy and they may not have time to read 11 pages, but they usually have time to listen for 2.5, 3 minutes.
Oh, I got 45 minutes in the
Yep.
morning and 45 minutes on the way
There you
home.
go.
He could
Yep.
just read the 11 pages to her.
It's- I will mention
Yeah,
that
I
when I
can-
see him again.
I
Be like
catch
an
up on a lot.
audiobook.
And that's what I have.
all right. Well, with that, we will move to executive session pursuant to RCW 423110, performance of a public employee for 30 minutes with no business to follow. Thank you all for attending.